Hi friends, Chandrasekhar here again. This is second in the series of lectures on placement of one bhav lord in another bhav. As we have already seen in earlier lectures, a bhava tends to give its own results by taking shelter of another bhava, so that a bhava lord will express himself, whatever is attributed to him, through the bhava in which it resides. So, now we will go to the second bhava lord in all the 12 bhavas. I am trying to speak slow because one of our listeners and subscribers has requested that I speak a bit slower, which for me is difficult because as you go ahead you will understand I have Mars aspecting my second house, and Mars, the commander-in-chief of the army, is always in a hurry. Yet I'll try my level best. So, my dear friends, what happens when the lord of the second bhava? Now, remember that second bhava represents the family, the speech, the face, and the family and the wealth that is accumulated by the jataka. Because we look at everything from the point of view of the jataka. So also the ornaments and dresses they say, but that relates to the honors that the jataka will receive. Now understand, this will also happen when the bhava lord is aspecting some other bhava, but we are at present only focusing on placement of one bhava lord in another bhava. So beginning with the first bhava, lord of the second occupying the lagna would indicate that the jataka will have accumulated wealth which he earns out of his own valor. That would also indicate the honors that he gets, and even sometimes his facial structure may be more or less similar to that of his family's facial structure, because it also represents the face of a jataka in Kala Purusha. We have already seen what is the Kala Purusha and how those bhavas represent different body parts of the jataka. It will also to some extent indicate that his family will have an influence of the jataka, which means perhaps he would worry more about his family values. Of course, one learned has said that he will be inimical towards his family, which is not exactly wrong, because ultimately by placement of the second bhava in the first bhava, what happens is the bhava lord is placed in 12th from himself, and since he is also indicator of the family, the jataka might not have good relations with the family. But we are here looking at him more from the point of view of wealth, and especially the accumulated wealth that is there, which would indicate the ancestral property, and whatever is split over after his earning, less his expenditure, is left over with him, whichever he saves in one form or other. His assets, we can say, both the liquid assets and the immovables, but related to the second bhava, accumulated by himself. This doesn't include his place of living and other assets. Remember that will go to the fourth bhava. Now when a second bhava occupies his own bhava, what happens? Always a bhava lord in own bhava gains strength, so he would have fairly good accumulated wealth, part of which might have come also from his family, so it could also be inclusive of legacies that he receives from the father. Remember, second bhava is 8th, 7th from the 8th bhava, so 8th bhava and second bhava are closely related, and legacy properties that he gets or money that he gets will also naturally end up in the second bhava, because that has not been earned by the jataka as such, because his direct earning would be connected to the 11th bhava. The profits that he earns also will be connected with the 11th bhava, but the accumulated wealth in all forms is second bhava, part of which is also wealth that he receives from his father or his ancestors, the property he receives from them, and so on and so forth. I mean the value of the property that he receives from them. So now when second bhava goes to the third house, what happens? There are two ways of looking at it. He will earn wealth through his own valor, because that is house of valor. His brother, especially the younger brother, may be pretty wealthy, because Dhanesh, the lord of the wealth, is occupying the third bhava, and this wealth will express through his younger brother or siblings as such, because third bhava is basically siblings, and more specifically the younger one. Now remember here, if he is malefic, naturally he will be a bit not so religious, because malefic will be aspecting the ninth bhava. But we will take it perhaps sometimes when we talk about individual planets placed in different bhavas. I hope you like it. And then we go to the next bhava. Lord of wealth and family, speech, etc. going to the fourth bhava. It will indicate that basically his mother's family or mother herself could be well off, one thing, and part of his wealth would also be inclusive of vehicles, his own house that he has built, because fourth house represents that. It also indicates that he can earn wealth through his minimum level of education, which is able to give him a career, because fourth bhava is also that education. Never forget that. Like in second bhava, we can also say that he can earn wealth. If second lord is in the second bhava, the wealth could be earned through speech, his ability to speech, his ability to communicate in different forms, but more specifically the speech form. In third bhava, it would be through communication, is the that is through writings and other sort of communicative skills. Also by dint of his bahu, as we say, bahubala is parakram. So that we have already seen when we are talking about what happens to the second lord in the third bhava. Now you understand the logic behind it, so that rest of the bhavas would be easier for you to understand, and you can also understand different meanings or different way he can express. The second bhava placed in another bhava can express himself. I am giving you as much as I can, but I have to always look at the length of the video and to see that the attention doesn't get diluted, because too long a lecture sometimes makes for one's mind losing focus, especially the listener's mind. The speaker has no problem, he is going to speak, and so he is always happy speaking. Somebody like me loves speaking. Why, I will tell you later on. And so now when the second lord goes to the fifth bhava, this is house of his putra, his progeny. So wealth would be got by the jataka through the progeny, which means his progeny will be fairly wealthy, well off. Also, he can also earn wealth through his acquired knowledge. Never forget that, ultimately fifth bhava is also acquired knowledge for jataka, and this is how that wealth would, the lord of wealth would express himself. Now we go to the next one, that is the sixth bhava. Now the sixth bhava, as we know, is litigations and enemies and relatives. So the jataka's relatives could be pretty well off, especially on the maternal side, and because as you know, sixth bhava is third from fourth bhava. The fourth bhava is mother's bhava, so her siblings, so they would be well off. One. Another thing is that jataka can earn out of litigations and his enemies. So they said he takes away the enemy's wealth. That is how it is interpreted. And you can understand the logic behind it. I will again and again talk about understanding the logic behind what is being told, because different sages will express the same thing in different manner, because every bhava has multiple functions, as you know. Some people might even think that why not the wealth, lord of the wealth going to sixth means loss of wealth. I would think no, he would try to give something through the mechanism of the sixth bhava. Now when the Lord of the second goes to the seventh, what happens? That is bhava of his spouse. So the spouse might have come from a fairly well-off family, or her maternal relatives, especially her father and others, would be pretty well-off. And it is also possible, because that is also a house of business. The spouse, I am saying wife, but you can always understand that if it is a lady, then the husband, uh, the wife or the husband might be helping the Jataka earn through business. So if he has a business, his wife or his husband, whosoever it may be, depending on the sex of the Jataka, will be instrumental in helping him accumulate wealth, which can be in two ways, because seventh house is house of business. If he is a businessman, this would be more applicable. If not, that wife will have a habit of, saving a lot of money and creating, accumulated wealth for the Jataka. She may also contribute to his wealth, but I would say more he would earn more through travels, frequent travels, which is the seventh house, and also his spouse might be from a well-off family, and she would have a tendency to save and create accumulated wealth for the Jataka. This is how I would look at it. Different authors would have given different interpretation. These are matters of interpretation. Apply logic, and my suggestion will always be to check against real life charts that you get, and whatever that I am telling comes out correct, accept it. That which is not right, plain forget it, or see where something else is happening, because we have got 9 planets in 12 houses in different conjunctions, different combinations. As I was saying, a bhava lord may be also owning some other bhava. So check all these things, but don't accept anything verbatim just because I have said it is final. I would say when there were 18 pravartakas, 18 sages are said to have propagated this science of astrology, Vedic astrology, to others. So all of them have different opinions about different subjects. I am not as great as those sages. So please remember this. Now we will go to the 8th house. Lord of the second going to the 8th house. This has two connotations. One is the accumulated wealth could be legacy left behind for him by the father, because 8th house is house of legacy. Father's whatever father leaves for him after everything, when the father departs for his heavenly abode, if we can say that, that is 8th bhava. And its connection with the second bhava is very obvious. So whatever you get as legacy goes to your accumulated wealth. Another thing is that is also a house of research, something deep which is not known. So that Jataka could also be involved in researches, especially if it is the second bhava lord is also Lagna lord, which can happen in case of Saturn, and so he could be somebody who is into deep research or mining, and all those things represented by the 8th house. And his accumulated wealth, that is besides his regular wealth and whatever is spilled over from the earnings that he has already done through his regular career, would be obtained through the indications of the 8th house. The general tendency of looking at the 8th house is it is Mrityu Sthana. Remember, it is Ayush Sthana. Mrityu Sthana means house of death. No, it is house of life. When it is harmed, then naturally death can occur. So always keep that in mind. That is where many times astrologer, even of my generation, make a mistake. No, it is a house of transformation. Even transforming in the way the Jatak speaks, or the way he handles his family, could also be one of the reasons for him to obtain wealth. So never forget that. Now we go to the second bhav lord, that is Dhanesh. It is generally called. It is also Kutumbesh. Ish means lord. Lord of Dhana means indicator of Dhana. Kutumbesh means again lord of family. He can also be called as the Vachadhipati because he speaks. He is not Vachaspati. Vachaspati is always Guru. And so remember, all those type of things he can utilize to earn wealth. I need not say that if it is malefic and it is harming a bhava, maybe he will lose exactly through the same sources the accumulated wealth that he has uh, got through legacy and maybe part of his own efforts. Going to ninth house, that is a house of dharma and father. So his father would obviously be fairly well off, one. And another thing is, this guy, this person might spend for philanthropic reasons. Why I am saying philanthropic is, in text it says dharma karya, that is called the house of dharma. And in Vedic system of sciences, the greatest dharma, the greatest thing for religion that you can do is make donations to good causes, like creating wells, creating water bodies for people to use, temples, and so on and so forth. Also, his speech, ability to speak, because Lord of the Second, and even his appearance might be one of the reasons for him to gain fortune, because ninth house is also house of fortune. Never forget that. It is a house of father, so wealth coming from father is of course there, but it is also house of fortune. So where from his fortune will grow is speech. He might be a great, as they call it, especially if it is guru, maybe a management guru or something. So we will have to then go in for the, to go for more in depth for it, we will have to think about the planet itself, whatever is attributed to that planet, and the karakatwas of planet. But we are at present focusing only on one bhava lord going to the next bhava. I will not repeat this in the next lectures. I think I am already boring you with the repetition of the same thing. But now, when Lord of the Second goes to 10th bhava, what happens? The wealth is earned through his own work. 10th bhava is bhava of karma. Karma, we can, in English, we can translate it as career. It can be job, it can be business, it can be anything that one does on a regular basis to earn. So in the 10th house, Dhanesh in the 10th house is, he will have accumulated wealth mostly through his own career. So he will be doing pretty well in whatever career he chooses and earn wealth through that. Remember that second bhava is also fifth from the 10th bhava. So it is in a way acquired knowledge of the 10th bhava, the career. So his expertise in the career would be one of the factors which would give him the garments of honor, as they call it. Vastrambara is called when we talk about second bhava. Honor is also indicated by the second bhava, not reputation. Reputation is connected with the 10th bhava. So let us differentiate between the two. And I think I have already talked about that when I talked about second bhava, why I interpret Vastrambar as garments of honor that kings used to give, and the anyway, the ornaments are also part of accumulated wealth. So ornaments we don't have to talk about, explain, because they are ultimately the accumulated wealth. Next is the 11th bhava. Second bhava, second lord going to 11th bhava, this person will always have profits, is certain. Anyway, it is said, labhe sarva graha prashastaha. All planets give good results in labha sthana, the 11th sthana. But here also remember, besides this, his elder brother could be pretty well off, wealthy, or his friends could be wealthy. Because 11th bhava, besides being bhava for labha or aya, that is profits or income, is also bhava representing the elder brother, younger brother of father, that is his younger uncle, paternal uncle, and the friends, of course, also the daughter-in-law or son-in-law, because fifth house, if it is son, then 11th will be the daughter-in-law. If it is a daughter, his first progeny, then 11th would be the son-in-law. These would be generally well placed financially, because here we are talking about financial implication. Sometimes also the honors that they receive. Next is second lord going to the 12th house. Now this is the most complex thing, and many a times, if I may say so, with due humility, misunderstood part of it. Second lord going to 12th house is always said to be Daridra Yoga, the yoga for penury, because you can obviously make out expenditure happens there, your accumulated wealth goes to that bhava and tries to express itself how? Through spending. And what happens then? Then you, if your accumulated wealth is gone, you are naturally poor or even a pauper, depending on how much you can spend and what is the rate of your income coming from the 11th bhava and the 10th bhava. However, let me make one thing clear. I mean, of course, he's sometimes he's speaking like not very sane person can also make losses for him, because second bhava is also bhava indicating speech of the person. But more importantly, remember that 12th bhava is also bhava for distant lands. Of course, hospitals, jails and other things. So, the Jataka is likely to have accumulated wealth if he works in distant land. Never forget that when we talk about second bhava lord in the 12th house. If I remember right, perhaps Queen Victoria's second lord is in the 12th bhava. Please check it out. And she was earning through all countries except Britain. Britain was not earning anything. Her earning, I mean, during her times, the earning of entire British Empire was coming from other countries. So how you use these resources would also change the ultimate results. Remember that, because a Jataka can never be born again, and so whatever resources are available and indicated by the planetary position of the bhava lords and so on, an astrologer should try to find out how best to use those resources and in what places, so that the Jataka is troubled the least and gets the most from the resources available. So my friends, I come to end of this lecture. I hope I have not been very fast in talking, though I find it sometimes difficult to slow down in talking, except when I am thinking about something, because I talk extempore, as you know. And let me know your impression of this lecture. I shall try to upload it, one lecture on this subject every week. And so, my dear friends, good night and have a great time. Spend your time reading the classics. My book is also there, and there are other books. Read them, try to understand them, understand the principles behind it, and I am sure you will be able to predict with fair amount of accuracy. Good night, my friends. See you when I give the next lecture.